In 1990, military satellites recorded a shocking event. The world's fourth largest sea, covering 68,000 square kilometers, was gradually disappearing from the map. Amid this environmental crisis, a group of local engineers appeared on the brink with trucks loaded with sand. At that time, 90% of the water had vanished. Rusting ships lay stranded in the desert, up to 100 kilometers from the nearest coastline. The world had long written off this place as beyond saving, treating it as a sacrifice zone that could never recover. Their plan was simple: build a 13-kilometer earthen wall across a strait. No concrete, no steel, just sand and sacks. Scientists called it a wasteful joke. Yet, after a short time, the results exceeded all scientific expectations. Water levels rose 12 meters. Fish returned after 20 years of local extinction. Life was reborn from an ecosystem considered irreversibly degraded. How could a simple pile of sand succeed where hundreds of millions of dollars of mega projects had failed? And which physical laws actually revived this sea? Everything started with an economic ambition: white gold. From the 1950s, the Soviet Union aimed to turn Central Asia into the world's largest cotton production hub. To do this, they intervened radically in the natural system. Two major rivers, the Syr Darya and Amu Darya, were entirely diverted into 30,000 kilometers of irrigation canals. Most notably, the Karakum Canal, the longest water conveyance system in the world, was built so inefficiently that more than half the water seeped into the ground before reaching the fields. The result was catastrophic. Water flow into the sea dropped from 56 billion cubic meters per year to nearly zero in the 1980s. As the shallow lakes shrank, water heated faster under sunlight, doubling the evaporation rate. The smaller the lake, the faster it evaporated. By 1987, the Aral Sea split into two, the tiny North Aral and the massive South Aral. The entire seabed was exposed, becoming the Aral-Cum Desert. Today, it is the youngest desert on the planet, containing millions of tons of agricultural chemicals, fertilizers, and heavy metals accumulated over decades. When the wind rises, dust columns reach up to 400 kilometers, carrying 75 million tons of polluted dust thousands of kilometers away. Aral salt has been found in penguin blood in Antarctica and on mountain peaks in Norway. Most alarming is Vozrozhdeniya Island, once a military microbiology research site now fully connected to the mainland. The dried seabed has created a land bridge, allowing rodents to access experimental zones, threatening to spread dangerous pathogens into the food chain via livestock. Consider the trade-off: a cotton economy in exchange for the disappearance of a 1,000-year-old ecosystem. Are we repeating short-term economic priorities over environmental protection elsewhere? Share the name of a land you think is being exploited to exhaustion in the comments below. Right now, we move to the most brutal part of this disaster. As the water receded, salt concentrations turned the Aral into a truly lethal environment. Prosperous port cities like Aralsk became graveyards of ships stranded in the desert. Thousands of fishermen lost their livelihoods and were forced to migrate. In the South Aral, salt concentration reached 150 grams per liter, turning the lake into a saturated chemical solution where no organism could survive. The Aral Sea had once been a giant climate regulator. With the sea gone, summers became scorching and winters bitterly cold. These abrupt temperature swings destroyed crop growth cycles. Humidity dropped to minimal levels, leading to crop failures. Farmers had to apply more chemicals to save crops, which then spread through dust storms, negatively impacting their health. A vicious cycle of crisis and disease engulfed the region. The latest health statistics show rates of malignancies and respiratory diseases remain 15 times higher than the world average. Approximately 97% of pregnant women suffer severe anemia due to contaminated water. Communities continue to endure a serious health crisis, as the degraded ecosystem directly harms what little remains. For a long time, the world viewed the Aral Sea as a dead system. This is eerily similar to what is happening at Lake Chad in Africa or the Salton Sea in California, where salinization is turning freshwater pockets into biological hazards. Yet, at the point of greatest despair, a glimmer of hope appeared from an idea once considered the most impossible in engineering history. We now move to the greatest natural restoration effort. In 1992, local authorities and engineers in the Kazakhstan region decided to do what higher officials had refused: block the northern Aral outflow. They understood a simple physical rule. North Aral is smaller, deeper, and still receives water from the Syr Darya River. If water could be prevented from flowing south to the larger, fast-evaporating surface, it could be stored. This action was considered a breach of international water agreements at the time, but for those breathing toxic dust daily, it was the only way to survive. With no budget and no modern machinery, they used local labor and old dump trucks to build a 13-kilometer sand and earth dam across Berg Strait. The material was desert sand mixed with local clay, a mixture extremely unstable under water pressure. International scientists called it a makeshift structure. Initially, it seemed to confirm their doubts. In 1999, a major flood washed away the sand dam, causing casualties and returning 7 years' worth of stored water back to the desert. The media declared the lake permanently dead. But this failure proved something no supercomputer could predict. Within a few years of the sand dam, water levels rose significantly, salinity dropped, and fish began returning to the river mouths. Field data recorded water recovery up to 40 meters above sea level, an unexpected outcome for a region once considered incapable of sustaining life. The simple sand wall became more than a hydraulic structure. It became a symbol of restoration, proving that ecosystems can regenerate if supported with precise engineering. The success of the early sand dam forced the World Bank and the government of Kazakhstan to step in. In 2005, the Kokaral Dam was officially completed. This is not an ordinary hydroelectric dam, it is a sophisticated ecological regulation device. The dam was built with a core of compacted clay and reinforced concrete, capable of withstanding strong waves and enormous water pressure from the Syr Darya River during floods. This 13-kilometer dam operates based on the principle of optimizing volume and surface area. If you pour water into a tray as wide as the South Aral, it evaporates in 1 hour. If you keep it in a deep cup like the North Aral, it lasts for weeks. The Kokaral Dam retains Syr Darya water in a smaller, deeper basin, reducing surface area exposed to sunlight, thereby minimizing evaporation rates. The dam's central operating principle relies on 9 regulation sluices. When water reaches 42 meters, the sluices release accumulated salty water from the bottom toward the south, making space for fresh water from upstream. This continuous circulation transformed a heavily contaminated lake into a large freshwater basin, shortening actual recovery time to less than 1 year. The results were astonishing. In just 7 months, water levels rose over 3 meters, and surface area increased by 18%. Areas dry for decades were flooded. The coastline shifted significantly, bringing moisture back to communities. This rapid revival is not just a statistic, it proves that previous forecasts underestimated nature's intrinsic recovery potential. Restoring flow created a positive climate effect, helping re-establish biological cycles that had been broken in the past. The greatest miracle of the Kokaral project lies not in concrete, but in chemistry. There is a biological threshold in marine ecosystems, 10 grams per liter. When salt concentration exceeds this, native freshwater fish eggs are destroyed instantly. Before the dam, the concentration was 30 grams per liter. After the dam, fresh water from the Syr Darya flowed in, and the dam's salt release mechanism reduced salinity below 8 grams per liter. This is ideal for high-value fish species such as the pike perch, a newly recovered resource in this sea. Nature then undertook a reoccupation. Without human stocking, fish from the rivers began moving into the sea. 22 fish species that had disappeared returned. Perch, carp, and bream reached massive sizes due to the absence of natural predators in the early years. Fishing yields surged from 0 to thousands of tons per year. The number of local fishermen has maintained impressive growth for more than 2 decades. Look at the food chain fish brought birds back. Over 300 migratory bird species now use the North Aral as a stopover. Siberian white cranes and pelicans, both on the global conservation list, have returned in flocks numbering thousands. Reeds have grown along the shoreline, serving as natural filters to trap dust and retain soil moisture. A direct consequence of restoring the water surface is regional climate stabilization. Increased humidity reduces extreme summer temperatures and mitigates winter dryness in Aralsk. New vegetation belts are forming on the floodplains, acting as natural barriers against polluted dust storms affecting communities. Economic data shows that revenue from fish exports completely offset the dam's construction costs in just 5 years. This is the most convincing evidence. When you provide nature with proper infrastructure, it can recover with efficiency far beyond any human plan. The contrast at the Aral Sea is the clearest example of how humans can choose to impact nature. While Kazakhstan uses the Kokaral Dam to create life, across the border, the South Aral in Uzbekistan is becoming one of the most degraded lands on the planet. The north is a green zone of life, with fishing fleets and the sound of waves. The south is a white expanse of salt and shipwrecks. The eastern part of the South Aral completely dried out in 2014, creating a massive new desert where even bacteria struggle to survive. The Aral Sea story has entered a new chapter with plans to raise the Kokaral Dam. The strategic goal is to restore water levels to the old ports of Aralsk, fully reviving the economic status of a maritime center disrupted by decades of desertification. High-tech solutions, including AI-controlled flow monitoring and anti-loss canal systems, are being deployed in coordination. The government is turning this area into an ecological experiment, where water is strictly managed to balance production and conservation. Smart sensors have been installed along the river to ensure not a single drop is wasted on inefficient cotton fields. Yet the biggest question remains, can this be called a success when only a quarter of the sea has been saved? The answer is not in area, but in proof of solution. The world is closely watching this model to apply it to other degraded ecosystems globally. Delegations from Iraq, Iran, and the United States have visited the Kokaral Dam to learn how to save their dying lakes. The North Aral Sea is a model for the world on reversing ecological collapse. It shows that even when 90% of a system is degraded, the remaining 10% can still regenerate if the right wall is placed in the right position. Reviving the Aral Sea did not require space-age technology or financial miracles. It required a deep understanding of flow, salinity, and the perseverance to face skepticism. A 13-kilometer wall changed the fate of millions of people and thousands of species. It is proof that engineering is not only for conquering nature, but also for correcting our mistakes against it. There are still other Aral Seas silently disappearing: Lake Chad in Africa, the Great Salt Lake in the United States, and the Dead Sea in the Middle East. Each place has blocked water sources and lingering problems. The lesson from Kazakhstan is both a warning and a hope: we have the power to destroy, but also the intelligence to repair. Looking back, we realize that ecological engineering is not just about building concrete structures, but an art of harmonizing with natural laws. The revival of the North Aral Sea sends an important message to the world in the context of climate change. Environmental disasters caused by human activity can be reversed if scientific knowledge is applied and action is taken in time. Finally, remember, the revival of the North Aral began with local people and bags of sand, not international discussion forums. The power of human will, combined with understanding physical laws, is the key to reopening the door to life. If you believe these ecological engineering solutions can save the planet, hit subscribe. We will explore other projects that are changing the face of Earth in upcoming videos. Thank you for watching.